Good afternoon. I want to thank you for the invitation. I really want to commend Ted for his work in putting this program, this project together. Ted pushed very, very hard and reached out quite extensively to invite you and others to participate today. I'm impressed, thankful to be included, and only want to make a few points, so I should not be long. Let me just mention the project that I'm co-chairing. It's called the Black Power Chronicles. And what some of us have been doing is kind of assessing our work. Many of us who've been involved in this program, we've been doing this work for decades. But at the end of the day, the public school system is shot to hell. At the end of the day, there's a definite issue with leadership, and I'm particularly talking about political leadership. At the end of the day, not only are we confronted by segregation, we're confronted by gentrification all at the same time. Our communities are literally suffering. And we've been involved in that work to counter that for more than 40 years. So it suggests to us that we might need to reevaluate and assess the state of our movement. So on the 17th of June in 1966 was when the call was first made by Stokely Carmichael for Black Power. We're going to recognize that and develop some programs that we think are unique around that. And we're going to come to KPFT and ask you to open up your airwaves and your programs so that a collective of us can begin this discussion within our community. As I sat here and I thought about I didn't hear any complaints by anybody who spoke this entire event. I did hear a number of issues raised. And as I looked into the audience, we know what to do about lack of respect. We know how to change business models for funding. You're not doing cross promotion of each other's radio show throughout the day? That's stunning to me. That's called basic radio 101. That ought not even be a question. You're reluctant to consider some underwriting money from businesses that want to give you money to operate and not require you to put on a commercial advertisement? Have you guys kind of not been paying attention to the development of mass media in the modern day? It's kind of automatic. If you're doing your solicitation with fund drives and you're having trouble, what does that mean? It means you're not broadening and expanding your audience. If you have the programming that develops a loyal listenership, that listenership will reward each one of those fund drives. It means you're not expanding and broadening and diversifying your audience. These are things that are relatively easy to fix. I heard something once, and I want to put it out there because I'd like it to never hear it again, that there was some consideration of selling KPFT. Now, there ought to be some things that are so obviously not the right thing to do that it just ought not come up anymore. Why would you dismantle the most powerful progressive media force in the city? Yes. It has unutilized potential. You got 2 HD stations, a strong and clear and powerful FM signal. This is a resource that ought to be able to turn money. You have a very loyal and dedicated and talented volunteer force. So the question seems to be the lack of a strategic plan. And again, I look at the room, I see Lawrence Payne. I've done strategic planning for 3 decades professionally. A SWOT analysis, weaknesses, threats, strengths, opportunities, lead to a coherent strategic plan. I heard about social capital. We've been teaching on social capital, I think, over 15 years, Charles. We got the book from the professor who wrote the book, Bowling Alone, Bill and Robert Putnam at Harvard. And what it appears is that it's the social capital within the supporters and volunteers at KPFT that needs to be built. So there's some principles. One of them is transparency. Transparency. You cannot build a movement. You can't hold half the people who don't know what happened to Zen or what happened to this person, then somebody's not being forthright. Somebody knows. This question of mutual respect, it ought to be a given. It's interesting that somebody thought the need to raise that. Internships? Really? I have 2 communication degrees from Texas Southern University. We have interns that we send out all the time. Clearly, there's some partnerships that ought to be easily available to KPFT to give some young people a free opportunity to come and learn about radio. And if you match your social media platforms with the power of your FM and your 2HD and the archives that are available to the Pacifica Archives, my goodness, it's interesting. So let me just say in closing that I'm in support of KPFT. Pacifica is much too important. The future is as bright as you're willing to commit to make it. There are no more magic wands. I used mine up. I left my crystal ball at home. I know about prayer and meditation, but I know a lot more about faith. If you have faith in yourselves, and if you'll commit to the principles, and you'll not just rest on your laurels, but build on the legacy and principles of Pacifica, then the future is bright. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Oh, we can do a little better than that. I may not have as many as said had, but we've got half of y'all still here. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Sounds a little better. This is a radio station. We're supposed to make noise. As your local board chair, I'm going to take the opportunity to welcome you, as the protocol did not allow earlier. And we want to thank you all for choosing to come here today. This is unofficially one of our mandated by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting town hall meeting, of which we like to hear your concerns, your needs, and your issues of the station, and I've heard a few. For my own self, my name is Dwayne Lark, for those of you who do not know me. I've been listening to KPFT from the Sunnyside area since I was about 10 or 11 years old. From a child listening in Sunnyside to now the first African-American board chair. Doesn't mean a whole lot. Previous African-Americans that have served in this capacity, most of them didn't fulfill their terms for the lack of dysfunction. But I'm here to tell you today that the future of KPFT is in this room. Because you were so concerned and that you have made a commitment of all the other things that you are able to do and options that you would have to spend your afternoon with, you chose to be here. Maybe that is a reflection of your relationship with Ted. Maybe it is a reflection of your commitment to the station. Maybe it is a combination thereof. But what I do know, and what I can glean from this effort, is that there are enough people and a cross-section of diversity to keep KPFT alive. But there's much work to do. If you're that committed to KPFT, I see at least 3 or 4 of you who are eligible and capable to be board members. Board members need to do many things with KPFT. I'm sure Teresa would agree with me that one of the things they don't do too well is raise money. And I believe that Claude and others have alluded to the fact that you can't run a radio station without money. And there are basically only two ways by which KPFT receives money. Two ways: out of your pocket or somebody else's. So I start by raising money by saying, those of you, and this is an honor system, those of you who are certified, bona fide, current members of KPFT, please raise your hands. That's a great example of who we have in the room. So I want to make sure board members show your hands. Those of you who are current board members. Now there were 3 or 4 hands that weren't up, so we want to make sure we get them before they leave the room, okay? Teresa Allen, long-term board member. Why don't y'all just stand, because I think the fact that you're here is evident that you are committed to the things that go around in KPFT. And I know there are many things that you could have been done, including some of the committees that some of you chair. Julius DePetch is gone. However, just to show the dysfunction of relationships of leadership and governments, she is the mayor's new education czar. But as a minister going out in the community, I found out in the last 4 months, we have a great value and asset that the city needs to hook up with. It's called Project Grad. Have you ever heard about it? Yes. Well, Project Grad have a specific new program called Cafe College. The very things Mr. DePetch was talking about, the students who don't know how and don't have access to fill out FAFSAs and all the other things that you need to do to qualify for. Well, Cafe College was created just for that purpose. So she needs to get with Project Grad and Cafe College, and the catch is this: they only have one brick and mortar, meaning one facility that these kids all across town can go in. My vision, my hope, is that through her vision, through her leadership, we can have one of those spots in every 16 of the council member districts. It started out with Ed Gonzalez council member district. So what that does is allow college students and their parents and their grandparents who are raising them to come into a facility, get help to fill out those FAFSAs and to fill out applications for college scholarships and things of that nature. Now, that's something that somebody needs to, Ted, you need to get that too, Mr. DePetch, since I'm not as privileged to her as you are. In closing, and I'm a preacher, so I'll close 2 or 3 times, okay? I just want to warn you. That's almost part of the, that's part of the culture when you're trained, all right? But the goal here is that I just wanted you to know one of several things before I leave this mic. Number one, I was a student listener. I was a teenager when I first discovered KPFT. And I fell in love with it when it was bombed by the Ku Klux Klan. Anything that's worth the Ku Klux Klan bombing, I've got to be a part of that. I've got to kind of love that. Now the bad news is, because we're talking about the past, the present, and the future, there's no reason, in my opinion, as board chair, for Ku Klux Klan to be that upset anymore. Because what we used to be described as, there were a number of adjectives that would describe KPFT in the 60s and 70s. And my vision for the future is that we get back there. And I'm looking at these young ones here. To me, this is the future. An old middle-aged person like myself, I'm the now, and I've got about 3 or 4 or 5 more years I'm gonna give. But Sid and the rest of y'all, we're hoping that you will become infused like Obadiah Kamal, my brother Obadiah, Judon, and others who've spent 20 and 30 years in this. PK?
Call me out.
So that what I'm trying to do is infuse and infect you. Say it. So that you won't get discouraged with whatever goes on. But you're gonna have a strong countenance, a strong commitment, but more importantly, when you share your vision, own it. What I mean by that, when you share your vision for KPFT today, commit to these next 10 years to spending like we have 10, 12, 30 hours a month, making sure that vision comes true. It's all the time we're able to make suggestions about programming and make suggestions about management. But unless we're willing to make that commitment, to own it, to work it through, to put in those hours through discouragement and all the other negatives that come into doing anything that's positive. So the second close is collaboration, transparency, and accountability. That's what I've tried to bring to the board. Collaboration, transparency, and accountability. And the one thing I found is they hold me accountable for sure. The other part of getting the other end of it is rather difficult. But when you have collaboration with board members who have a shared vision, you're able to get more done than when you don't have a collaborative effort with shared vision. Avant-garde, eclectic, unpredictable were the terms that describe KPFT. Avant-garde, unpredictable, and eclectic. Those are the values that attracted me to KPFT. Unbought, unsold, uncontrolled is a mantra by which I live by with Shirley Chisholm, but KPFT kind of lives by that mantra too, and that's why we broke. Because if you unbought, unsold, uncontrolled, which means Exxon and the rest of them don't seed into you, so they can't tell you what not to put on and what to put on. So in the end, we must double our commitment to make this oasis of progressive thought on the airways that are so powerful it reaches 7 to 8 counties. There is no more powerful medium by which we can send the progressive message than KPFT. And another thing I leave you with. What I have realized is that people count numbers. And of course, Ted's vision was 300 here today. But life has shown me that numbers don't count. God make numbers count, meaning this, that what we have here today can be the beginning of the evolution and the revolution to take KPFT into the 21st century of being the progressive oasis in Houston. We're not there yet, but with the people I see in this room, if we double our commitment and we focus on KPFT and not self, I guarantee you we'll leave this legacy and this rich potential to the children and the grandchildren that we're leaving behind. I thank you for your indulgence, and I hope you double your commitment to KPFT today.
Can y'all hear me? Yes. I don't speak that loudly, but I do speak. My name is Marie Munoz, and I'm new to the committee. I was invited because I'm very vocal about my views and opinions and what's current here in Houston, especially mainly on social media. I'd like to start out with saying I grew up both Black and Hispanic, so it was a little tricky growing up making friends. I wasn't Black enough to be Black, and I wasn't light enough to be white, and I wasn't Spanish enough to be Hispanic. So you have to find your own way and your own voice in a community where you really don't have a certain set of community where everyone looks like you. And like the other gentleman said, everyone, the question was always, what are you? And where are you from? So, and still to this day, I get that question all the time. But I've learned to be my own person through my thoughts and opinions and achievements. And I grew up in a Hispanic household. So the motto I want to say in the Hispanic community is really to work hard. Like they say, the American dream, you just want to work hard and work and work and work and make sure your children are fed. Education sometimes comes secondary to being able to support your family. So I think the most important thing about this generation coming in is really teaching them how important education is. Also to work hard, but how important it is to be educated and also express yourself through art, music, fashion, things that are not normally are not priority in minority communities. I feel like some of these communities feel like they have no voice. When you're coming from another country, whether you're Black, Hispanic, Asian, European, sometimes you feel like you have no voice. And it's either fear of being criticized, fear of being deported, fear of being shot down or not taken seriously. So really what happens is they shut down and really don't say anything. I'll give you a perfect example. Growing up, I realized usually Hispanics, maybe not particularly Hispanics only, but when you're foreign and scared of being different or scared of being criticized, you don't say anything. You stay quiet because that's what you're taught. That's what you're taught by the last generation. So when I say giving the next generation a voice is teaching them, and having that change actually starts from home. It starts from home and it starts from school, because those are the two places that you're at most of the time, most of your life. So, like for example, I like the story of Malala. Malala is an Indian girl, Pakistani girl, I'm sorry, that the Taliban tried to kill her for speaking out on education for young girls. I watched her story, and I realized she had, the reason why she was so strong of a girl as she is because it came from home. Her mother supported her, her father supported her, very, very proud of her. So that gave her even more power made her more powerful than she probably even thought she was. And without that support at home, I think that it's critical for the youth to have that support at home. Also, what else was I gonna say? I don't want to miss anything, but I don't want to go too long. Okay. I did want to say, as far as social media goes, radio, TV, internet, it is a double-edged sword. It really is, because you have negative things that go viral and positive things that go viral. Negative bullying, creating memes as a form of entertainment, criticism, those type of things go viral. I think it's super important to have the positive things go viral, as far as art, inspirational quotes, sharing family stories, beauty, fitness tips, things like that. Make up the community of this generation, because that's how they communicate most is social media. So definitely, like Cedric said, you know, radio is super, super important, because it's a means of communication for this generation and the next, and has been for a long time. So my ideas, I'm an event coordinator, by the way, so my ideas for being able to network better and bring a younger listening audience, also a younger volunteers to the radio station, would be to make more events for the youth to network, have more fundraisers, and these should always include music, art, fashion, poetry, things that are relatable to young people, things that they're interested in, and using social media to network that and promote that and get that word out, so that they can, you know where they're welcome and where they can do their own thing or have their own show, and use it as a tool to bring in more young people, just again to help the radio station, I don't want to say survive, but you know what I mean, enliven the atmosphere and what's made up, what the radio station is made up of, I'm sorry. And I think me one second. I think that's about it. So definitely, I think that's about it. Again, this is my first time, so I'm a little nervous, but I appreciate you guys having me come today, and I enjoy sharing my ideas. I'm a people person, so I really look forward to being able to work with some of you and have my input not only verbally, but put work in as far as the radio station is concerned, and help out. Thank you.
Greetings. I am Lakeisha Shante K Boogie. I am a new host on Conscious Mindset Radio with Brother Fed and Brother Evans. And so I was asked to speak about the future of KPFT. I would like to think of myself as being a part of the future of KPFT, as well as my little one. She will also be a part of the future of KPFT. And so I've been associated with KPFT since I was in college, undergrad, which was almost 10 years ago, roughly about 10 years ago, 8 years ago. And I knew about it through Damage Control, which was a show on Wednesday nights where local hip hop artists would come and get their music played. And it was a really good experience. It was a lot of camaraderie there. A lot of the artist community found a place that we could just come and hang out. And I think that as a younger adult, that was very important, to have a place as an artist that I could come to and just see other, I'm sorry. Right here. Okay, so I think that was really important. And so looking towards the future, I think as long as artists can come, young adults can come and not feel weird, as long as they're welcomed. It was very respectful. I don't remember any type of altercations happening because we understood, it was a privilege, but it was also public radio. And so I think that's a key component. I wanted to also say that to get the younger audiences involved, to get them invested, typically young adults are known to be short-sighted and to instant gratification, right? And so when they can see, okay, if I invest in KPFT, I'm going to get this benefit, this gain, whatever that is, whether that's getting their music played, whether that's advertisement, they get to perform at events, whatever. If you can show them something, if I invest in this program, I know within the next 6 months to a year, I'm going to get some benefit from it or immediately get some benefit from it, then I think they'll be more prone to invest. So for instance, I know our shows, I know we have archives on KPFT, but it's very difficult using social media to cut and paste those archives. And so you have to tell your friends, oh, I was on the radio, but now you have to scroll down and find it. And so if that was a little bit more easier to just, okay, I can go on this archive, I can download the link and post it on my page, that's the benefit. I don't know, I don't do computers, I don't know how to arrange that, but I think that I know I've attempted to post our shows and I wasn't able to do it, and that was kind of bummed me out. So, I think also, I was speaking to my mother today about KPFT and some of the shows that are on there, and the sister who called me and asked me, I asked her, well, what do you want? What are we looking for? And she was like, well, gosh, golly, we just want to make it not so white. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. I didn't realize it was as white as it is, I guess because typically I associate with the more diverse shows. But I think that the shows that I do listen to, what I did notice was a lot of the shows, like for instance, Robert Muhammad, it's during the week. It's at 1 o'clock, I believe, or it's 3 o'clock, right? The times are really, like I work. And so for your working class listeners, it's very difficult to have access to these shows. Like, especially to host it, I can't, if I wanted to host a show at 2 o'clock on a Tuesday or 11 o'clock on a Tuesday, I have to work. And so that's not even available to me. And so I think a lot of the times, and I don't know how to solve that problem, I'm just stating it, but a lot of the programs, like ours, is really late at night. And so I think if we could figure out, I don't know the dynamics of that, but if we could figure out how to maybe get some of the shows that address working class people, that address your different demographics at times that are actually more convenient for them, that might be a solution to get those people more invested. So I don't know, just throwing some stuff around. Lastly, outreach. I don't really see KPFT at a lot of the events that I attend. And so even if it's just a table set up, and I don't know if those type of things are available, bumper stickers.
I just need y'all to be there to do it.
Well, I mean, even so, like bumper stickers, we have those things? Okay, well, that's good to know.
So y'all can get involved.
Excellent. Well then, okay, well there's a solution right there. So when we have our events now, we can set up tables and have the KPFT banner. We can hand out some things to help market KPFT. And then lastly, more festivals, more things like this. If we had like the little jumping thing for the kids out front, or had a DJ set up. We love DJs. We love our music. So if we had a DJ, we're going to have DJs. We're going to have events for the kids. We're going to have whatever. It takes money. I'm aware of that. I do understand that. I understand it takes money. So once again, I don't have all the solutions, but I think that would help get more people involved if it was a more festive type event. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, hi everybody, and I'm running late for my radio program on 1360. And that's not to take any listening audience from anyone, but I'm on radio in some places. Let me first of all just thank Ted again for having this here on today. Thank him. And I've listened listened to a lot of things that people have to say. So let me just say a few things, okay, that I think the station needs to do moving forward. First of all, I think everyone needs to make sure that you understand that you need to build a brand. The station is all about the brand, not the individuals, but the brand. Okay, build the brand, build the brand. I started a gospel quartet about 15 years ago. We started at 40 years old. My lead singer walked into my office when I talked to him about us possibly recording. He said, "Claude, you lost your mind. No one in the world wants to hear a bunch of 40-year-old men, going around the country singing quartets." Well, since that time, we've been at the Kennedy Center. We just came back from Switzerland for a week-long tour. We've been at the Stella Awards for the last, I think, 8 years. We've been awarded the best quartet in the state of Texas. But I built the brand first. I sent stuff out all across the country. You would have thought we were superstars. When I mentioned, people were saying, "Who the hell is Endurance?" But I just sent stuff out constantly building the brand. You build the brand, people will come. Build the brand. Sponsor events. Now I'm going to talk about events. Sponsor events. Go to events. Have people sponsor events in your name. You don't even have to go. But just say, "Claude, will you sponsor a table for $1,000 for KPFT so we can send some people to sit down there and put KPFT on the table?" Hell, I'll do that. I just had an event at my church for KPFT. I forgot the young lady's name. Ted, help me. Who? Amy Goodman. Had 800 people come through free. I just gave it a building for that event. Okay? Huh? You're right. So building the brand, social media. Young people into social media. You got to have social media. Word of mouth, printed material. Spend time. People spend a lot of time in their automobiles in Houston, and we are with the traffic that we have. Sylvester ain't gonna fix that in his first 4 years, trust me. Just like I told someone on Facebook the other day, you can get about the floods. It's been flooded in Houston for 40 years. I've been here all my life. He ain't gonna fix it, in 6 months. So people are still going to spend a lot of time in their cars. Build your brand so people want to go in and hit, right, the station. Brag about what you do. Y'all do a lot in the community, but brag about it. Brag about it. I had a guy at this door here when I built this building, and before we built it, if you go out there and you look at that wall, all of those presidents there below my picture tried to build a new building. None of it could do it but me. A black guy, the first black guy built a building like this in downtown Houston. I bragged about what we were going to do before we did it, and then I did it. And I said, you brag about something, it ain't bragging. If you can do it, you accomplished it, right? And so I had a guy tell me once, Claude, I hope you don't break your right hand, pat yourself on the back. I said, if I do, I'll use my left. Because if you don't toot your own horn, who's going to toot it for you? And then, add young people. You got to bring young people to stuff. I'm on 3 different radio stations. I drag young people with me everywhere I go. This young lady that walked in a while ago, she didn't know about this today. She didn't know about it. So I called. I said, I want you to come to this event today and just listen to what's going on. So you have to bring them to events, right? You can't expect them to just show up. You got to bring them. This is important here. I'm listening to these board members, and I've watched some of the board members, but let me say something to you. Add people to your board to have resources. I don't know how y'all get them there. Y'all figure that out, but it's fine to have board members, but you better add some that's either got resources, know how to get resources, or have access to resources so they can make donations and do what they need to do. Because let me tell you, there are plenty of people in this city that have progressive people. When Hillary Clinton was in office here last week, there were lines and lines and lines of people that were paying $25,000 and $30,000 a piece to see her. Those are progressive people that live right here in Houston, Texas. And I said last night with a gentleman, because we're talking about putting a pact together to do political work here in the city of Houston, probably $4 or $5 million, and he was telling me, I could not believe the number of people in this city, progressives that think like us, that have money, but they only will come out if you solicit them. Okay, they're just not going to show up at an event, and then sometimes you have to bring in some people who have a little name recognition because they like to take their picture and then write that check for $25,000, So you might want to think of doing something like that and then get to know those people. Listen, I'm sitting at the table with millionaires in this city because people know CWA has been spending money on political events and doing other things. And it's like, so get a chance to know those people. No subject should be off limits. I don't care how tough it is. And I know how people feel about the bathroom issue and transgender people and all of that. I don't care how tough that is. And I tell folk all the time, I'm a Christian, sister, I'm strong on my faith. But in the New Testament, it says Jesus loved everybody. And so I love everybody. I don't have a heaven or hell to put anybody in. And folk ought to have an opportunity to talk about their issues. I don't care how controversial it may be. They ought to talk about it. In Ferguson, Missouri, which is part of my territory, I've got union members who said Michael Brown got what he deserved. I've had to deal with some of that kind of stuff myself and educate people on why it doesn't make sense for black men or women or anybody else to be shot in the back in this country when they're running away.
Thank you.
That doesn't make sense. And I've sat in rooms with police officers that have said, Claude, yeah, but, if we tell them to stop, they ought to stop. I said, yeah, but if they're running away, that doesn't mean they ought to be shot. And that's not anything to do with police. I respect police. CWA represents police. But there's a way to do things. Build infrastructure. Build infrastructure. Infrastructure is important. I've been telling the Democratic Party this for years, and I finally we forgot about it. CWA is doing it. We are building infrastructure all around the state and all around the country. I lead human rights for CWA. Not only do I have my 5-state district, but I've got the whole country for CWA. I'm running elections in Jackson, Mississippi, mayor's races and stuff. So I've got the whole country. But we're training people. We're training people all over the country. So when we have an event or we need a movement, all we need to do is pick up the telephone. We got thousands of people that are ready to mobilize. So y'all ought to pick people that say, you go in this community, you go to this church, you go to this restaurant and talk about KPFT and what's going on. That's how you build your infrastructure, right? And then finally, I would say to you this, and this is going to be important, and I'm going to walk out the door after I say it. About a month or two ago, I met with your leadership. And I talked to them about me spending some kind of money on media, a way that we could spend it and not get in trouble politically. Now, I spent well over $1 million, maybe $2 million in the state of Texas in elections last year. And some of you know how to look up those reports. You can look it up and see what CWA spent and what station we spent it on. And I said, get back with me so I can talk about how I can get some of this money in here and do some of this stuff, maybe even have my own program, or maybe I can put some people on a program. And I talked about how Michael Harris and KCOH have been running to the ground, and there was no place for them to go to get progressive talk out, and maybe I could do something, help sponsor them, be on, because I know you could be on the air. I took them out to lunch, I paid for the lunch, right? And I said, y'all get back with me. I wasn't at that.
Okay, do we ask?
So I've moved on. You know, if y'all listen to 1520, you'll see where they're all at, and you'll see my son hooked up with them over there with my name, because I can't own nothing, but he is. And guess where my resources are going? After I met with the leadership, asked them to get back with me. Let's talk about how I could put more money. I spent a couple of $1 million on media trying to get it out. And I ain't got a call back. I risked my case. I'll see you.
All right. Everyone thank Mr. Cummings, and we would like to thank him and CWA for allowing us to use this facility